What's up, guys? It's me, Sergio, with Mobility Direct. Thanks for stopping by our channel. In today's video, we're going to troubleshoot this Victory mobility scooter by Pride Mobility. Something's wrong with it. Our customer dropped it off. They said it won't power on, and it's true. I've powered it on. Nothing's working. The breaker button was tripped, and this is the breaker reset button right here. It was popped out. So that's something you should always check to make sure if this button is out and you push it in, that's going to reset the breaker. Like, let's say you're going up a hill or exceeding the weight capacity, or if you get hung up on a big curb and you keep hitting the throttle, it's going to overheat and pop that breaker. I pushed it in and it's still not working. So I'm going to troubleshoot further. Before I do get into things though, I do want to tell you about our free product catalog. Okay, we have a full printed catalog with our most popular products and a ton of awesome information. If you want a copy, go to our website, mobilitydirect.com. Click on the green button at the top of every page that says free catalog. Fill out the simple short form and you'll get one in the mail within 1 to 2 weeks tops. So I'm going to go ahead and take this seat off. And by the way, if you call the number below, you can give us your address by phone and we'll get that catalog out to you as well. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to just check the voltage on the batteries, okay? And this is something you can do at home. You can pick up a voltage meter for like 20 bucks and test the batteries yourself. You can buy the batteries yourself and replace them. All it is a nut and a bolt on the positive and the negative for each battery. You get two 12-volt batteries that are the right size for your scooter, and you could save yourself the money. You don't have to pay a technician to do this for yourself if you're confident enough to do that. So let's go ahead and check a few things here. First of all, I want to make sure that these batteries have at least 12 volts because it is a 24-volt system and it's not going to turn on unless there's a minimum of 24 volts. So I've got my voltmeter here, and I'm going to go ahead and test each battery by putting the positive and negative probe on the positive and negative terminal of the battery. Let's go ahead and check this one. What do we got there on the voltage meter display? 13 volts for the first battery. So this battery's good, more than enough. And I'll test out the second one. We got the same reading, about 13 volts on both, 12.9, 13, there we go. So each one has 13 volts, so we know the batteries are good. We know the breaker is not tripped anymore. We push the button in. Now what I want to make sure is that the voltage that's coming from the batteries is actually going through the system, making its way to the charging port. If it's making its way up to the charging port, you know that that main wire harness that comes from where the batteries plug into going all the way up to the steering column, that the voltage is passing through as it should. So what I do is, I got a little tip here. Get your positive and your negative probe on your voltmeter, plug one positive one into the right side or the left, and then the other one to the left or right, and you should get a readout, okay? We don't have a readout. We should see 24 volts here. If we don't have 24 volts at your charging port, then there's no way to charge your battery, number one, and it could be a loose wire or corrosion in the wires that's preventing the signal from the voltage from coming back and forth between the batteries and the charging port, and that's going to cause issues. So we're going to have to figure out what it is. It could be something simple like these connectors here that come from each battery not being put in all the way. Okay, so I'm just going to make sure that both of these connectors, these are wiring harnesses. There's one for each battery. Okay, so you've got your white and your black connector here, and you've got the receiving end here that you plug each one into in no particular order. They just plug in. 12 volts is 12 volts. You've got two of them, so it doesn't matter which one goes where. As long as there's 24 volts going in, it should pass all the way through to the charging port. So I'm pushing them in firmly, wiggling them, making sure that they're seated in there nice and tight, and I'm going to double check again. Still nothing. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do before I start taking things apart is do something simple and check the fuses. Okay, a lot of scooters have a fuse panel here, and in this case we do have a panel here for a 10 amp for the battery, 5 amp for the ignition, you've got 3 amps for the lights, and then the turn signals are 1 amp. So we're going to check to see if the 10 amp is bad, and if it is, well, that's our problem. Okay, it doesn't hurt to check all your fuses though. Let's go ahead and take a look here. So this fuse doesn't look bad. You go in there and you can see that the fuse is not broken. That little wire or that line going through the middle, that's like kind of like a U-shaped or a N, is fully connected. If it was broken, then that would mean that your fuse has been burned out and you need to replace the fuse. So fuse should be good here. Let's go ahead and pop that back in and continue with our diagnosis. All right, so what I'm going to do at this point is take the batteries out for a second and put them to the side because I want to take the scooter apart. Now these scooters have the ability to disassemble. There's a quick release lever here. Pick up, pull forward, and oh, what was that? Oh, that doesn't look good. Okay, so I think we're on to something here. First of all, this is filthy, okay? You don't want that. The tires are super bald, so this thing needs maintenance, okay? First of all, it definitely needs a good cleaning. Anytime your scooter gets this dirty, you're opening yourself up to the opportunity for parts to start failing. The tires being this bald, it's working much harder. It's not getting any traction, especially if you're going uphill, it could be dangerous. So there's a lot of things that I see here that could potentially be leading to problems. Now, this is the most concerning part. We've got some bits of plastic here, and it looks like, oh yeah, okay, so let's take a look here. That is broken. All right, so we turn the light on. That is definitely broken. Okay, now this, what you're looking at, is basically a connector that passes the voltage to the motor and the electronic brake system from the front end of the scooter over here to the rear end of the scooter. And the housing just crumbled apart. See the male connector here? Look at this. This thing is falling apart. It's cracked in many different parts. Look at it. It's brittle. Okay? So that is definitely not good. However, I still don't understand why voltage is not going up to the charging port. That doesn't explain that. So there's more than likely several issues. And look at these screw heads here. What do you see there? They're not the color they're supposed to be. That is a lot of rust and oxidation. There's rust and oxidation here on the seat post as well. There's rust and oxidation on almost every screw head here. So I think that there is probably an issue with corrosion and oxidation, and this thing is probably stored outdoors, which you don't want to do. If you have to store it outdoors, at the very least you should put a grill cover on it or a scooter cover on it to protect it from the humidity and the elements. So let's go ahead and dive into it and start taking apart this front panel and seeing what's going on and why we're not getting voltage here. Obviously that part needs to be replaced as well. Even then, I don't know if it's even worth replacing so many parts on this old Victory model, when in reality, parts are probably likely to fail in the future again because this thing has not been taken care of. All right, so I've got my Phillips head screwdriver, and there are quite a few spots to start loosening up screws to take apart this main steering column, and then you'll be able to expose the charging port, the main wiring harness, the dash. It could just be a simple ignition failure. The wires on the ignition might have been dislodged. Let's figure it out together. I'm going to fast forward through this part. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, several screws that I'm going to unscrew, and then we'll open this thing up and come back and talk about it. All right, so we just got the last screw out, and we're going to start seeing what's going on here. All right, so what I'm going to do right now is just disconnect the potentiometer so that this isn't dangling. Okay, it's really not something that I need to worry about right now. And what I actually want to do is expose the components here in the top so that I can actually work with it and see what's going on underneath there. I mean, I can technically see everything that's going on right now. It looks like the connections are all connected, but I can't really troubleshoot and do a continuity check on the main wire harness at the pinouts that go all the way here, that travel underneath the floorboard, that come from the controller and go up to the main wire harness, which is this big connector right here. Well, I guess I could actually. So I'm going to disconnect it here. And this is the main wiring harness. Essentially, you need to make sure that you're getting continuity here all the way back to the controller, which we're going to show you here next. All right, so I was just going to start taking apart the body panel to expose the controller, and check this out. Look at all that water in there. Okay, this thing is just so badly waterlogged and exposed to water and corrosion that honestly, even if we were to replace parts on it and fix it, things are just going to start to fail one after another. You have to know when your mobility scooter has reached a point of being beyond repair, right? You can start replacing every single part on this if you want, but that's going to cost you more time and parts and labor than it's worth. And I honestly want to inform the customer of this, because you've got clearly bad tires in the rear end. Each tire is going to cost you money. You got corrosion everywhere here at the knuckle. Basically every single screw on this thing is corroded. The thing has not been maintained at all. So if we were to put our hands on this and start replacing parts, then that could lead into a situation where the customer says, hey, well, you replaced the part and it failed again, it's your fault. When in reality, it's just a matter of time before every electronical component on this scooter starts to fail, which is why it's so important to take care of your products, keep them clean. And if you live in an area where there's a lot of humidity, like by the beach, you should really be spraying down your components with some sort of anti-corrosive spray like T9 or WD-40. We have videos on all this stuff, guys. You should be checking that stuff out. We have more DIY repair videos, tutorials, maintenance tip videos than any other channel in the industry. We don't just have DIY videos, we have comparison videos, product review videos, torture test videos, you name it. As far as this video goes, I'm not going to start taking apart the entire scooter right now, because we want to make contact with the customer and prepare them for the financial burden that they're going to have to face when it comes to replacing all of these components, and see if that's even something they want to do, or if they want to consider getting a brand new unit and learning how to properly take care of it so that this doesn't happen again to their new unit. So the next thing I'm going to do, just for fun, is check the continuity to make sure that the ignition is working as it should. And to do that, we're going to put it on the continuity setting here, which is kind of like a right arrow and a little Wi-Fi signal is what I like to call it. Put it there, and what's going to happen is if the wire is intact, basically it's going to make a noise. So if you touch the two probes together, you get a beep, right? So an ignition is just like a fuse, really. The ignition, when you turn it off, is kind of like breaking the connection. When you turn it on, it's reconnecting it. And that's all it is. So you either have power when it's on, the ignition's making the loop, the electrical loop is being closed, or the circuit's being closed, and then when it's in the off position, the circuit's open. So let's go ahead and see. To test an ignition, we have a video on how to do that, and I highly recommend checking that out, because the viewing angle here is going to not be great. But we're going to get in here with the camera and the light and show you what I'm talking about here as best as we can. So the ignition from the bottom side looks like that. Okay, we'll move this out to the side. So your ignition's right here, and you've got two wires going to it. Essentially what you want to do is kind of peel back the wires and peel back the heat shrink, I should say, and expose the wires. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and try and peel back the heat shrink a little bit. It's really the only way to properly test an ignition. So there's the exposed wire on one end, and I can pretty much see the wire on the other now. So I'm going to go ahead and test it by putting my two probes, and once you touch those two probes together, you should get a beep, as long as your ignition's in the on position, which I'm going to check right now. But I'm not getting a beep now, so let's go ahead and see. All right, now it's on, so let's go ahead and see. One there. Okay, I'm not getting a signal, but I want to peel that wire back just a little bit more. There we go. Now I can see that metal. That wire's exposed now. Let's see. Okay, so the ignition's working. I'm getting a beep, and the ignition, the key is in the on position. So the ignition's working fine. All right, so let's go ahead and take this nasty thing apart. Ugh. Oh, God. That is not pretty. Water just hanging out. Honestly, a lot of these screws are probably not even going to want to come out. They are in bad shape. Well, let's see what we can do. So we're going to start taking out the screws that hold this main panel in, and see what we can come up with. All right, now there is a nut here that you have to get to on the bottom side. So we'll go ahead and remove that one. Take care of the bottom one here too while we're at it. There we go. And I believe those are the only two. So now this whole bottom piece is coming out, and that's what we want. So go ahead and tilt it back up. Man, that thing is filthy. Okay, we got one more screw here. A lot of screws here, guys. A lot of screws here. And gals. All right, so this whole bottom part now should just be able to come right out. Yep. All right. All right. So let's take a look and see what we got here. Look at that. Is that a dead lizard? What is that? Oh, that's just cobwebs. Okay. So obviously, that's not supposed to look that dirty. There's even corrosion on the frame there, and that's just not good. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start troubleshooting and seeing what could possibly be wrong here. But at first glance, I can tell you it's not supposed to look this dirty. And look at this. Check this out. Look at those puddles. Those are puddles. Puddles of water. It's water damaged completely. And like I said, I don't think there's really any chance that this thing is going to survive unless we replace every single electrical component and every single wire. Basically, the only thing that's good at this point is the frame. All right, so in order to get the controller out, I'm just going to remove this whole assembly there. And I am going to have to tip it over carefully here. Not that it matters if I'm careful or not, because this thing is what we call toast. But it is a very educational and informative process here for a lot of you DIYers to know how to access the controller, how to break this unit down, basically down to the frame at this point. So you got two screws here holding the controller in place. On the other side, on top of the controller box, you've got nuts. So you just want to make sure you get a pair of pliers, a wrench, or whatever socket set. And I'm just going to go ahead and remove that controller cover so that we can take a look at the controller and determine whether or not that controller is rusted out, fried. My guess is that it is all of the above. All right, so here's the big reveal. There's that controller. All right. Actually, that cover, that box, did its job. This controller's not bad looking. It really, there's no corrosion on it, so it could be that this controller is not bad, but we don't know until we really start checking here and seeing if we get voltage from the connectors, or continuity rather, from the connectors, and seeing if we follow these connections, it's going to be delivering power to the motor connectors and the battery connectors for the controller. So that's what we're going to check next, continuity, and let's start doing that. So I'm disconnecting the motor cables and the battery cables here, okay? So these cables, we should get some sort of continuity from here to here. Let's get our multimeter and do a continuity check. We're at continuity setting here. I'm going to see if we just touch each one of these. Okay, we got continuity there. We've got the positive and the negative for the motor, positive and the negative for the battery. So this one is, let's hold this one to the side. So this has the electromagnetic brake wires coming out with this harness. So I know that this is the motor connector, the positive and the negative for the motor. All right, so I'm going to remove this block here and see what's going on. The housing, I should say. This housing here is basically where the batteries plug into. Oh, and that's just cracked, so gonna need a new housing for that as well. It's just all brittle. Got a battery or a screw in the back as well, so it's got 3 total screws holding it in place. All right, so let's take a look here. All right, folks, so we've tested out the battery leads, and we're getting continuity from here to the battery leads. So the battery voltage is passing through to the controller. So we know that battery's voltage is going to the controller. We also know that the breaker has passed the continuity check as well, right? If we double check here the pinouts of the breaker, we're getting continuity, which is the top, this white one and this black one. That's how the breaker is wired. If you look closely in there, you can see the red is going to the one here, this white one, and the black is going to the one up here. So we got these two that are bridged and connected to the breaker reset button assembly, and we've got continuity. So really, we know that the voltage from the batteries are entering this system here, the two connectors. They're passing through to the controller. If we check here, we should just double check to make sure we're not getting any loss of voltage. Got continuity there on one pinout and on the second one. We got continuity as well. So this whole assembly right here is doing its job. We've passed the continuity test. Everything's intact. These wires are intact. So battery voltage should be passing through here, making its way to the controller just fine. Which means that from there, we would need to check these wires to make sure that everything is passing through all the way up and that there's nothing wrong with the controller as well. All right, folks, well, we're back here. This is a separate day that we've been filming. We've communicated with the customer. At this point, they're going to actually buy a new mobility scooter, okay? So I'm not going to go ahead and replace the controller, but I will tell you that it most likely is the controller that's bad. If it's not the controller, the only other thing it could really be is this main wire harness that goes through underneath this body panel, which comes out with just a few screws, and it fishes all the way up here. And this main wire harness basically sends all the signal from the controller to the components up high. The charging port connects to the fuses. So it could be this wiring harness. If you have a similar problem at this point, you should know what to do. Check continuity. You want to check voltage, make sure it's going from the batteries to the controller, up to the charging port, to the dash, to the motor. And if you have a multimeter and you know how to use it, well, with a little bit of time, the right tools, you should be able to do it. We have so many other YouTube videos that are like this one, complete teardowns of different models. Currently, we're working on tearing down a Baja Bandit model. We've done it for several other models by Pride Mobility and Golden Technologies. So I hope you found this video helpful. Sorry that we're not going to be able to go through and replace the parts and get it working again, but honestly, there comes a point in time when you see a scooter like this that's so rusted out. This model's very old now. It's just not worth it to invest so much money into replacement parts and the labor to go ahead and get this older scooter working again when chances are other components are going to fail pretty soon. So I will tell the customer to keep it so he can get some spare parts that can be used for the newer updated version. But there's only so much you can do when rust starts to take over. So that's why I highly recommend always keeping your unit dry, using a rust corrosion spray like T9 or even just WD-40, and of course keeping it dry. If you're going to store your scooter outside, put a cover on it. If you're going to store it outside and you live in a tropical area, you're going to expect things like this to happen. So do whatever you can to prevent rust and corrosion. We have tons of videos on this stuff, how to maintain and prevent rust. We have videos on all of that. So if you're interested, check out our DIY playlist. I'll put the link in the top right-hand corner of the screen. Again, I'm Sergio with Mobility Direct. I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. I hope you learned something. And if you have any questions, leave a comment below. I'll reply within one business day. Until next time, everybody, have a great day. This is Andrew, my best friend.
Thanks, my friend.
Hey, no problem, man. Enjoy it, all right? God loves you. It's on the road as much. Just like his, you can sit down on it, lift the armrest up. Go for your first ride. Woo! So what do you say we go hook up Ricky next?
Let's go get Ricky.
Have a seat in your brand new Chariot, all black.
All black. Woo! How's that feel?
That's yours.
Oh man, thank you so much.
Ricky, thank you for just being a good person and, you know, putting God first. And that's what we do, man. We just bless people that are subscribed to us, and
Some beautiful weather out. Make sure you get out and enjoy it, man.
I heard you're using this wheelchair right now and it's kind of tough.
I don't know how to thank you.
Hey, You're very welcome.
Oh, thank you so much.